And we are back. And, they're saying in chat who's interviewing whom. And I find that to be an issue a lot, Jim, when I'm talking to another radio host or when I'm being interviewed. So it's really hard.
As I say, that's the conversational style that I seek.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be one way or the other. So
I agree. And I like doing the conversational style. I've been asked, why aren't you asking hard-hitting questions? Why aren't you going through a list? And I'm like, well, because I like seeing where this conversation's going to roll,
And I will say this. There have been times where you can be floating right through this thing, and then you can seriously throw a question at somebody that they're not expecting and get a honest answer.
Yes.
Just because you build a rapport with them, you have some trust with them, and they will answer the question. So it's not necessarily you are avoiding the hard questions. And there are some guests, I just won't talk about X, Y, or Z with them because
right.
I know the answer. I know what's going to come. I know what the answer is. I've heard I've heard them talk about it before. And I've got an hour. I'm not going to waste my time on hearing. Well, unfortunately, due to the whatever, I can't talk about that. Or they Sim and Hans make this big circle and don't really answer the question. I'd rather ask a question I can get an answer to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, when people are comfortable, then A, they're going to want to come back if you invite them back. But B, they're going to know what's happening. They're going to pay attention to your questions and they appreciate you.
Yeah, and it's always good. It's always good to hear from a guest they want to come back. Because if you do become such a pit bull interviewer, you will. I've seen them. What happens is, yes, you can book guests for a year, 2 years. At some point, I get a message from them. Man, I'm running out of guests. What do I do? And I'm like, well, you've kind of already made your bed. You just got to lie in it now. Because you make enough people mad, word gets out.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it does. I was actually very concerned. I had a guest when I very first started who I had seen because we followed each other on Facebook and were friends, and that's how I wound up booking him. And it was amazing because he had commented about how his son was his hero. And it was really moving to me. And I brought that up during the show. And he just went silent. And I was like, oh no. And he was like, yeah, he is my hero. And there's a good reason for that. He's just an amazing person. So I was really scared when he went silent. And it turned out to be a good thing because we evolved into talking about parenting and other issues. It was cool.
I was going to say, the last time I had Mark Anthony, we were talking about him earlier. Quarter till the top of the hour, I just stopped the interview. Didn't really stop the interview, but I said, Mark, how's your dad? And because, like I said, we've been Facebook friends for years, and I've been, sent his dad a card for his birthday, and he went into the story about the just slipped my mind, Flight of Honor flight.
Oh, wow.
His dad got to go see the World War II monument in D.C., and just this great, story about his dad. And then probably 2 months later, his dad passed. And so I sent him a message that said, hey, I'm just thinking about you, all that fun stuff. But those are the moments that, okay, people listen to them. But at the end of the day, some people will gravitate towards that, the honest, real content. And some people don't want that. And I prefer that honest, real stuff. No, Like again, it was just a question wasn't meant to turn into a 15-minute discussion about all this other stuff. It was just I wanted to ask, and because you've listened to the show, I kind of wrap up the show a little different. So I just kind of started transitioning to that, and it never transitioned to that. It just kind of, like I said, it stayed in that lane, and I just kind of let it go that way. So there are moments, people. We were talking about favorite guests earlier. There are moments, and then there are moments that you think about particular moments from particular guests, and I think that's probably the better question to ask. What is the great, because yes, they're hard to pinpoint, but moments, answers are a lot easier to come by. But they're not easier to come by, but there's moments like that just, when I think about it, I still get emotional because I never met Mark's dad, but I understand the relationship and being a father myself and all this other, it just gravitates to you. It's just, you hold it.
Well, so. Yeah. You always hold on to that because you're moved through it. I think that's what I prefer to think about, not who is my favorite guest or who is my least favorite guest or who. Yeah, we can throw those who questions out there, but those things that I don't want to say supersede the show or take over the show, but things that necessarily, because I could post that clip and they'd probably get 10 listens because nobody would be interested in it. Right.
But if you, through the course of the show and you get involved with these people, personally, professionally, those are moments that really stand out.
Yeah. I would not be able to name a favorite guest, but I've got a list of moments that you just can't put a value on because they mattered so much. So, I just think that's neat. And I think it's astounding that he got to do that honor flight. That's just so amazing.
Yeah, it sounded amazing. It was. I'm really glad they're doing that for service members. So.
Well, they are the greatest generation. Still.
Sadly, we're still losing them too fast, but.
Well, we are, but you know what? I really don't think there's going to be another generation like that. And it was not just the men; it was the entire generation. They did what had to be done to get things taken care of because they believed in it.
Horrible segue. Horrible. But
now I'm scared.
It is just horrible. But I'm reading a book right now about World War II. Well, actually the end of World War II and transition to the Cold War. Mm-hmm. From a guest that's coming on Tuesday. And to see how the world changed from like 44 to 50 in like 6 years. Like I said, through the prism of this book, which is, well, anyways, it's amazing the prism of this book, but as you start relating it to real life and how things were, it's just remarkable to think about how news was transpired. Like, we think about picking up our phone and having headlines. Well, there wasn't that. It's just remarkable. The whole thing just gets me thinking and things that I shouldn't be thinking about.
And if you want to find out about this book and his upcoming guest, Malliard.com, Malliard.com. So
Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
Be there early because this cat phone, you'll miss half the show if you don't know what's going on. But but podcasts are available, iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere. If it's not where you want it to be, let me know and I'll get it there.
There you go.
So.
But, well, what seems to have been your guest's opinion on what created that void of, I'm not going to say a void, I think it is though, of a willingness to just step up and handle things.
Oh, well, like I said, this is kind of a niche of that, so I don't know if we get into that.
That's going to be interesting.
It's very interesting because, like I said, the transition from 44 to, well, this gentleman's life ended in 75. And to follow it through, I don't want to talk about too much because we were talking about the Greatest Generation, and this counteracts that to a degree.
Right.
But I guess on the other hand, without the opposite side, you don't have the other side. So it'll be an interesting listening for sure.
Well, I'll be there. I just think that how you find guests, I know that they come to you too, but it's so interesting the different and varied people that you have had the opportunity to interview. It's just, It's astounding.
It's part luck. It's part luck. It's part them coming to me. It's part blind fishing at times. It's part finding a topic that I'm interested in, finding somebody that's interested in talking about it. So,
right.
I don't know. There's no easy answer to any of that. And, but I guess before we run out of time, we'll get to pet peeve number 5. If you send me a guest request letter and you list 7 or 8 other paranormal shows you've been on, I'm going to tell you what happens to it right now.
Yeah.
I delete it. Because you've already overexposed yourself in the market.
Right.
Sorry.
People don't understand that. And how many have you passed on that probably would have been interesting? And Mark Anthony is in chat. So our Mark Anthony. So we have our own. So
okay. Well, yeah, I do. I'm sure I pass on people that are interesting and pass on people that have, even people from publishers, you get on these newsletter lists that are good people, and then you start looking and you see right away, like instantly, you get that email that morning, and then on Facebook that afternoon and that evening, you see pre-interviews with that guest scheduled for the next few days, and you go, well, I'm booked September, so it wouldn't be this weekend, so it wouldn't be necessarily. But they've already talked about the book and talked about the book and talked about the book. And by the time I could get to them in September, late. So now, thankfully, I've got a few people that will throw me some people early enough in the process and keep them away from the main list for a while so we can navigate some things.
Well,
so I guess that's a sign of respect, I guess.
I think so. How could it be anything else, right? So
they know it's what they know. I had a guest tell me that besides Coast, that I sold the most books, and I probably sold more books for them than the other 10 shows they were on combined.
I could see that.
So, not to brag, there's no, I could have easily ran with that and busted a lot of chops with that, but I didn't.
Yes, you could. And
okay.
You know what? We are right out of time. So,
of course.
Tell them how to find you again. And I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed this.
How to find me, Malliard.com, Malliard.com, or just type in Malliard Report. You can actually spell it like the duck without the I, and it'll show up. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher. Like I said, they're all off my website. If you need any of that stuff, just come over there. The full-length interviews are there. Clips are there. Streaming's there. Chat room's there.
All the things.
If you got any more questions for me, just come over and send me an email or find me on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll answer you as long as you don't make me answer you within 45 minutes of sending it. And if you want more of that story, if you want more of that